Charlottesville was taken out of context.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
You know, Joe Biden says, I ran because of Charlottesville. I saw the veins bulging out of their neck. And they have my statement, which was fine. But if they let the next sentence run, it was perfect. And they know that. They know that.
Overwhelming majority of people feel that the president is a flat-out racist. I just want to ask you, how do you feel Trump's racism and his bigotry has personally affected you?
I mean, look, when I looked at what happened in Charlottesville, and I watched people marching and chanting and with these tiki torches and the hate coming from their mouths. And you didn't even have to have the volume on, by the way, to see the hate and hear it. You could hear the hate with no volume on and feel it. And then for the leader of the nation to equate the both sides gave me an incredible amount of pain and concern. Pain about the fact that it had happened at all, and that the leader of the country, according to title, would characterize what we were observing in the way that he did.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
Treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No.
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No.
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No.
Did you think that Joe Biden had an amazing run, but that was it in 2016? Did you think that was it?
I did, and I think Joe thought that as well. But, you know, once this president was elected, people started coming up to us and saying, you know, Joe has to run, he has to run. And then Charlottesville occurred, and then it sort of got louder. And Jill, you have to tell Joe he has to run.
Why did you wait so long until last week?
I didn't wait long. I didn't wait long. I didn't wait long. I wanted to make sure, unlike most politicians, that what I said was correct, not make a quick statement. The statement I made on Saturday, the first statement, was a fine statement. But you don't make statements that direct unless you know the fact. It takes a little while to get the facts. You still don't know the facts. And it's a very, very important process to me. And it's a very important statement. So I don't want to go quickly and just make a statement for the sake of making a political statement. I want to know the facts.
As you look at American democracy 7 years later, how do you see it?
When I spoke to the mom who lost her daughter as a consequence of those neo-Nazis and white supremacists come out of fields in America with torches, carrying Nazi banners, singing the same sick anti-Semitic bile that was sung in Germany in the 30s. And when her daughter was killed, the press went to the then President Trump and said, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. And I knew then, I knew I had to do something. And that's when I decided to run, because democracy was literally at stake. And, you know, and then he evidenced everything that we thought. You know, January 6th, when attack on the Capitol, he talked about now, because he now talks about making sure they're all let out of prison. They're going to pardon them. Think of this. Every other time the Ku Klux Klan's been involved, they wore hoods, so they're not identified. Under his presidency, they came out of those woods with no hoods, knowing they had an ally. That's how I read it. They knew they had an ally in the White House. And he stepped up for them.
If you go back to in fact, I brought it.
Who did you bring, Mr. President?
As I said on, remember this, Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And then I went on from there. Now, here's the thing. Excuse me. Take it nice and easy.
I hope within the Republican Party they would lower the temperature. It's not right to say when we have Charlottesville, people coming down the hill with torches and all the rest of that, lights, and then saying, Jews will not replace us, Jews will not replace us. A person gets killed there, and then the candidate for the president of the United States then says, oh, they're good people on both sides, without condemning those actions.
Here's the thing. When I make a statement, I like to be correct. I want the facts. This event just happened. In fact, a lot of the event didn't even happen yet as we were speaking. This event just happened. Before I make a statement, I need the facts. So I don't want to rush into a statement. So making the statement when I made it was excellent. And honestly, if the press were not fake and if it was honest, the press would have said what I said was very nice. But unlike you and unlike the media, before I make a statement, I like to know the facts.
Maybe you're Muslim American or Jewish American, and you are heartbroken and furious about the ongoing bloodshed in the Middle East and worried about the rise of anti-Semitism. Why would you place your faith in somebody who instituted a so-called Muslim ban, who sat down for pleasantries with Holocaust deniers, who said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally?
Do you think that what you call the alt-left is the same as neo-Nazis?
Those people, all of those people, excuse me, I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. Those people were also there because they wanted to protest the taking down of a statue, Robert E. Lee. So, excuse me, and you take a look at some of the groups and you see, and you know it if you were honest reporters, which in many cases you're not, but many of those people were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. So, this week it's Robert E. Lee. I noticed that Stonewall Jackson's coming down. I wonder, is it George Washington next week, and is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You know, you really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop?
Already knew about the rise in anti-Semitism during the Trump administration. Charlottesville, if people don't remember, the tiki torches saying Jews will not replace us, where Trump infamously said there are fine people on the neo-Nazi side.
Mr. President, are you putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane?
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue. and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
White nationalists?
No, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, are we going to take down his statue? I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people. Neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this. There are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final?